They may be made of plastic, but that doesn't mean that their hearts aren't real. The characters in Toy Story have overwhelmed us with emotion throughout the good times and the bad times.
Reach for the sky!
Exploring relatable and at times dark issues that include jealousy, growing up, self-worth, and even existentialism.
I'm just a toy, a stupid little insignificant toy.
Toy Story is one of the best animated series ever created, but in a world full of toys, how do we measure morality? Well, that's what we're taking a shot at today. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is Good to Evil Toy Story.
To infinity and beyond!
What better guy to start with than the most fearsome dinosaur in the toy box, who's also nothing less than one of the most lovable toys of the bunch, Rex. He's caring, gentle, and hates any kind of confrontation.
I don't like confrontations!
And despite his insecurities and anxieties,
Don't do it, Woody! We love you!
Rex always overcomes the challenge for the sake of his friends.
But I don't want to use my hand!
Ironically, he's a toy who seems to be a bit of a child himself. He's constantly knocking things over in excitement
It's a what? What is it?
and forgetting how big he really is. Plus, one of his favorite hobbies is playing video games with his friends. It's also admirable that his greatest desire is being loved and played with.
He held me! He actually held me!
And don't forget his courageous act when he knocked Zerg over with his tail in Toy Story 2.
I can't look!
With all that said, many would agree that Rex is the most innocent, sweet, and lovable character in the Toy Story universe.
Play! Real play! I can't wait!
Next up is the Space Ranger, who always has the good of the galaxy on his mind, even after his realization that he's just a toy, Buzz Lightyear.
To infinity and beyond!
He always prioritizes what's best for everyone else,
We have a friend in need, and we will not rest until he's safe in Andy's room. Now let's move out!
and he's seen as a good example to many. Between him and Woody, Buzz is arguably a better and more present leader. When Buzz has a mission, he goes all the way through to the end, whether it's rescuing Woody or even enlightening him and bringing him back to his principles.
Somewhere in that pat of stuffing is a toy who taught me that life's only worth living if you're being loved by a kid.
Buzz's bravery, courage, optimism, and loyalty are unquestionable all throughout the movies, and we see this several times whenever he's willing to rescue a defenseless person, even if the odds are stacked against him.
Why is that soldier strapped to an explosive device?
Of course, he also has some insecurities about his true self, or living with the fact that he's just a toy. However, thanks to Woody's speech, he managed to get over the manic depression and finally understand his role as the toy he is.
You see the hat? I am Mrs. Nesbit.
A lot of fans like to compare Buzz and Woody, but I like to think that Buzz is of the best moral character. Next is a man who understands honor, sacrifice, and duty. Sarge. He is a disciplined soldier who never questions his mission to help others.
Yes, sir!
Even Woody refers to him and his men as the best.
Hey, these guys are professionals. They're the best.
Always there to accomplish a mission on behalf of his fellow toys. Sarge will even put himself at risk to ensure that everyone gets home safe.
A good soldier never leaves a man behind!
After all, in his own words, a good soldier never leaves a man behind. We salute you, Sergeant. Next up is an animated horse who honestly acts more like a puppy, Bullseye. Woody's noble and faithful steed
Ride like the wind, Bullseye.
is always brave, loyal, and intuitive to his friends. He's also extremely affectionate not only towards Woody, but also Jessie and the other toys. Despite the fact that he can't speak, judging by his actions, no one can deny that Bullseye is extremely happy, excited, and always there to help. During the rescue scene in Toy Story 2, you can see one of his many impressive skills when he runs just as fast as a plane getting ready to take off. He's simply amazing.
What's a cowboy without his hat?
Ride like the wind, Bullseye. Another example of pure loyalty is Slinky Dog, who's always with Woody and always the last one to give up on him.
We believe ya, Woody.
He's one of Woody's best and most loyal friends, and unlike Mr. Potato Head, he's no instigator. Slink is always nice, friendly, and playful, much like any regular dog. He seems to have the most faith in Woody and never had a bad thing to say about anyone.
I knew you'd come back, Woody.
Moving on, we have Peep. She's delicate as porcelain, literally, yet she grew beyond the destiny given to her by her manufacturers, and she aspired to be something more. She may have never joined in on the gang's crazy adventures throughout the first movies, but that's totally understandable due to her fragile nature. However, in Toy Story 4, Bo Peep developed a more adventurous personality, putting herself at risk constantly, through parkour and rescue missions for the sake of others.
Here and there, you know, some kids play rougher than others, so I try to be prepared.
That bravery is truly remarkable because never forget that porcelain breaks very easily. Bo Peep is kind of a skeptic, she only believes in what she's witnessed herself, and with that develops a very mature outlook on things. By the time Bo Peep is moved to Molly's room, she becomes almost a leader amongst her toys. And even Woody describes her to be the most capable of easing Molly's cries at night. Coming up next is an ambiguous character who changed a lot since the first movie came out. He is the owner of the toys, Andy Davis. No doubt that he has treated his toys with an enormous amount of love.
You're going to jail, Bart! Ah, watch out!
However, as a teenager, his personality changed drastically, which is understandable. Andy goes through the phase of life that every 17-year-old boy struggles with, being easily irritated and gruff all the time. Although he no longer plays with his toys, he still cherishes them and remains very attached, especially to Woody, making it very difficult to give him away.
Now, you gotta promise to take good care of these guys. They mean a lot to me.
But in an incredibly selfless act, he gave his favorite toy away to little Bonnie. What a guy. And for that matter, let's throw in Bonnie here as well. Obviously a bit young to really rank on a morality scale, but like a young Andy, Bonnie is a good kid who's loving and sweet, and she takes care of her toys. The next character is feisty and adventurous, Jessie. She may have a similar look to Woody. She's much different on the inside. While Woody is reserved and thoughtful, Jessie is enthusiastic and acts spontaneously all the time. Her bravery is evident throughout the movies, especially when she's willing to risk her heart again by going to Andy. Jessie is a very loyal, friendly, and excitable cowgirl. However, she has some flaws caused mainly by her rough past, leaving her feeling lost, resentful, and with no purpose in sight.
How can you do this to us?
In Toy Story 2, she acts a bit selfish towards Woody when she realizes that he has the intention of going back to Andy. Fortunately, Woody helps her past all that, and she becomes one of the most caring friends you could ask for. Next up, we're finally at the cowboy and protagonist of the Toy Story franchise, Woody. His unconditional love for Andy is outstanding, and he also demonstrates time and time again how brave, loyal, and generous he is. Woody looks at his friends as family, and he does anything that he can for them and keeps them together all the time. He shows a lot of doubts, frustrations, and sadness, much like a human, but despite his mixed emotions, he tries his best to not show it to his friends so that they can feel protected and secure. Woody is not without flaws, however. He is one of the most tactical and developed characters in the franchise, and out of spite and jealousy, he tried to trap Buzz behind a desk.
Down there. Just down there. A helpless toy. He's trapped, Buzz.
And accidentally knocked him out of a window. And this is really why we ranked him this low. In the original movie, Woody is incredibly spiteful and jealous. And he sort of thrives off being at the top of the hierarchy in Andy's room. Something that he even struggles with when adopted by Bonnie.
Sheriff, do I need to be worried?
No, my guys are veterans. They'll hang in there.
But he eventually got over his jealousy and made amends, and there is no denying that Woody is a great guy overall. Either toys or people, everyone could use a friend like Woody, who never gives up on us no matter what. Known for their worship of the Claw, next are the aliens. Despite behaving like little kids, they are undeniably funny, loyal, and heroic. One of their most heroic acts was saving the entire group from the incinerator at the Tri-County landfill. This brave act showed how loving they are. After the amazing rescue scene, even Mr. Potato Head, who wasn't sold by the idea of having them around, turned out to be eternally grateful for them.
We are eternally grateful. My boy.
Next, we have Forky, the handcrafted toy made by Bonnie. He's a somewhat philosophical guy, always raising all sorts of questions about the world, like how do toys come to life?
Why do I have to be a toy?
And other things like that. Forky's existential crisis managed to affect even Woody when he was trying to help him, making Woody question his own existence.
Useless? Yeah. Your purpose fulfilled?
Now, Forky is very innocent, self-conscious, and fragile, which reflects on his actions and his way of thinking. He has a very self-critical personality, which turns this piece of trash/toy into an authentic character with some rather deep problems. Now let's rattle off a few entries really quickly. Next, we have Ducky and Bunny, the two wisecracking stuffed animals from the carnival.
To infinity and my foot! Boom!
Always hilarious, Ducky and Bunny do their part in assisting Woody in Toy Story 4. And they both bring levity to the situation with their colorful personalities. We also can't forget to mention Barbie, a bit of a small role, but a pivotal one in Toy Story 3 nonetheless. We can't help but feel sorry for her, having been given away by Molly.
I can't believe she would throw me away!
She seems to be desperate for love, which she finds with Ken, but that doesn't stop her from doing what's right to uncover what Lotso is up to.
No more games, Ken. What did Lotso do to Buzz?
Duke Kaboom is another character we can't help but feel sorry for.
Look who jumped 40 school buses and landed back into my life.
Like Buzz, he went through his own sort of existential crisis when he was thrown away the day his kid received him, all because he didn't live up to the commercial. Sure, Duke is a bit melodramatic, but come on, that's a pretty rough hand to be dealt. Next up, we have a minor antagonist, Utility Belt Buzz. Really, he's essentially just Buzz before his existential crisis.
You're in direct violation of code 6404.5.
Though he never evolves past this very simple dimension. When our Buzz encountered him for the first time, Utility Belt Buzz imprisoned him.
Listen to me, you're not really a space ranger, you're a toy!
We're all toys, do you hear me?
And made all of his friends think that he was the real one.
Well, Slotted Pig, they're standard issue.
Thankfully, Buzz managed to escape, and since both wanted to destroy Zerg, they joined forces to defeat him. But all the conflict aside, give the man a break, he just hasn't seen the light yet. Next up is the very caring Mrs. Potato Head. She's friendly and kind-hearted, but also has that overly dramatic personality that is a bit over the top at times.
It's so nice to have a big, strong spot around the house.
After knowing that Mr. Potato Head saved the lives of 3 little aliens during a mission, she decided to adopt them, despite her husband's apprehensions. You may have heard the saying, happy wife, happy life.
Oh, my hero! And they're so adorable! Let's adopt them!
But she should probably have ran that one by her husband, don't you think? Moving on, we have a very grounded character in the group, the wisecracking piggy bank, Ham. He's very smart, but also very sarcastic. He also speaks the truth. Like Mr. Potato Head, Ham spent years playing as the supervillain,
It's Mr. Evil Dr. Porkchop to you.
the evil Dr. Porkchop, in Andy's numerous pretend scenarios. He's also somewhat of a technological genius, and he's the ultimate channel hopper in Toy Story 2, since he switches channels on the TV far more rapidly than the other toys can.
Oh, you're going too slow. Let me take the wheel. Too late, I'm in the 40s. Gotta go around the horn. Faster.
Ham is definitely a sarcastic character, and admittedly doesn't seem to be as caring as some of his friends are. I mean, when Barbie was given away, instead of saying something comforting, he just called dibs on her Corvette.
Poor Barbie.
I get the Corvette.
Next up is the most trustable henchman Lotso had, and also his right-hand man, Big Baby. Big Baby was completely manipulated by Lotso, who lied to him to use him as a henchman,
Poor baby. We were thrown out together, me and him.
causing chaos and fear in Sunnyside. However, thanks to Woody,
You lied to Big Baby, and you've been lying ever since!
Big Baby discovered Lotso's true colors, and finally, having had enough of his lies and abuse,
She never loved you. Don't be such a baby.
he ended up throwing Lotso into the dumpster.
Put me down, you idiot.
A true hero in that moment, without a doubt. The next character is known to be the most evil and destructive villain in the galaxy, and also Buzz's archenemy, Emperor Zerg. He's as delusional as Utility Belt Buzz, since he truly believes he's the real Zerg and not just a toy.
So, we meet again, Buzz Lightyear.
for the last time.
But one thing is for sure though, Zerg is dangerous, destructive, and murderous. But we kinda have to let most of that go because he was programmed that way.
I am your father.
And he redeems himself later and builds a good relationship with his son. For all we know, once he sees the light and acknowledges that he's a toy, he could be a downright great guy. What a hilariously weird plot.
Good bro, son. That's my boy. So long, buddy.
We've talked about the wife, now comes the husband, Mr. Potato Head. He's a glass half empty kind of guy, if you know what I mean. He has a cynical and grumpy personality. He's constantly preying on Woody's insecurities.
Yeah, like the attic.
Insulting other toys, and spreading negativity all around Andy's room.
That's Mr. Potato Head to you, you backstabbing murderer.
Plus, Andy often casts him as a villain in his games, which is understandable since it kind of fits his irritable and sarcastic behavior most of the time.
Money, money, money.
But I suppose even the most happy community has at least one instigator, and in this case, it's definitely Mr. Potato Head. With all that said, he's prepared to go to lengths to save his friends and has a genuine sense of humor. He also seems to have mellowed out a bit after the arrival of Mrs. Potato Head. The next character took us by surprise when he turned out to be a brave toy after all, Barbie's loved one, Ken. Despite being one of Lotso's henchmen, in the end, Ken had the guts to defy Lotso.
Barbie! Wait! Don't do this, Lotso!
Later, he became a leader aside Barbie, giving a new positive horizon to the toys of Sunnyside Daycare. With that said, would Ken have turned on his former evil associates had he not fallen in love with Barbie? For all we know, he would have been more than happy to stay on the bad side if it were not for her. Now, this ranking is going to anger a lot of people, but give us a moment to explain. Next is Sid Phillips.
Let's go home and play.
Let me preface this by saying that Sid is one of, if not the, greatest villain in any Pixar movie ever made. He is absolutely terrifying from the perspective of the main characters, but we have to look at things contextually. From Sid's point of view, all of the toys that he's ripping apart and torturing are not real.
Patient is prep.
He believes them to be inanimate objects. There's no denying that Sid has problems. He's a bully towards his sister.
Jeannie's all better now.
And he has legitimate anger problems as shown when the claw in the arcade nearly gets stuck. Then there's the demented imagination. He seems to have a lot of violent fantasies.
No one's ever attempted a double bypass brain transplant before.
But one could argue they're really not that bad, and this sort of behavior is common specifically with little boys. We all knew a few kids in our neighborhood who like to blow things up with fireworks. If anything, it actually seems like Sid may be struggling with a not so great home life. He has problems, but he's not sadistic in the sense that he really thinks he's harming innocent creatures. For all we know, once the toys reveal themselves to Sid, he changes for the better and never hurts another toy ever again. Heck, maybe he went crazy or was overwhelmed with guilt. We're putting Sid here on the list because he's a bully and he seems to have real anger issues. But we can't in good faith rank him as the sadist that the toys see him as. The next character may not be the most evil of Toy Story's villains, but she might be one of the creepiest. The vintage pull-string talking doll, Gabby. The truth about Gabby is that she feels desperate about being in the antique shop and just wants to be loved by a kid.
I've been practicing. How do I look?
Unfortunately to do so, Gabby ends up kidnapping Woody to steal his voice box, so she can finally fix her own voice and be loved again.
All I want is a chance for just one of those moments.
She's a bitter toy, very persuasive and smart, doing anything necessary to get what she wants. However, Gabby has been shown to possess some redeeming qualities as she honors her deal with Woody of letting them go after she took his voice box.
Goodbye, Forky. I'm going to miss our talks.
After seeing that her previous owner, Harmony, rejected her,
You can take it home if you want.
Gabby still tries to be adopted by a child, which eventually causes her to redeem herself.
I'm Gabby. Will you be my friend?
She's also the first villain in Toy Story movies to make amends, which is quite remarkable. Ultimately, she's not as bad as she seemed at first. The next character is also known as Chicken Man, the greedy owner of Al's toy barn, Al McWiggin. He's a truly horrifying guy who's covered in Cheeto dust and even looks like he smells bad. For starters, Al is a big thief who has little patience for anyone or anything that gets in his way. He steals toys, as he did with Woody, to sell them and make money.
You, my little cowboy friend, are gonna make me big bucks.
He's a selfish and unbearable person who has a crazy toy obsession.
No! His arm! Where's his arm?
However, unlike Sid, Al preserves his toys and even repairs their damages in order to increase their value and sell them for a lot of money.
So, how long is this gonna take?
But really, since we're ranking him from the human perspective, he falls really low because of his thievery. What kind of adult steals toys from a yard sale? He also treats other people very poorly, as evidenced by how rude he is to the airport staff. Next up, he is the bait-and-switch villain of Toy Story 2, and a charismatic control freak, Stinky Pete the Prospector.
Why, the prodigal son has returned.
In the first half of the movie, he's shown to be a very wise man, giving support and advice to Jessie, Woody, and Bullseye, almost like a mentor.
How long will it last, Woody? Do you really think Andy is going to take you to college? Or on his honeymoon?
However, he was hiding his true nature as a manipulative, treacherous, and bitter man. He's willing to lie and chop up his fellow toys into pieces to get what he wants.
Take that, space toy!
He even reopened the old rip in Woody's arm and threatened to tear him apart again.
Your choice, Woody. You can go to Japan together or in pieces.
He's a cruel and insensitive guy who's possessed by anger and despair. Stinky Pete sure is one of the cruelest toys in the universe, but with all that said, we can feel his pain. This depth is why Pixar is the best when it comes to creating characters. I don't think that it's a huge surprise who is destined for the most evil spot on our list. The twisted Lotso Huggin' Bear is without a doubt the most evil character in the Toy Story universe. He may seem like a regular and friendly teddy bear from the outside.
Welcome to Sunnyside, folks. I'm Lotso Huggin' Bear.
But on the inside, he is a total monster. He rules Sunnyside Daycare with a furry fist, manipulating his followers into believing they are as twisted as him. He's smart enough to manipulate everyone around him, and uses his cuddly exterior to get those around him to let their guards down.
Bring in the bookworm.
He's tortured and interrogated toys, and even pit them against each other. Heck, he even threatens to murder his dissidents on trash collection day. But there is one moment in particular that raises his status to outright sociopath. And I think you already know what moment I'm talking about. When he and the toys were being sent towards a burning, fiery death, Woody and Buzz help him escape to a ladder where the button that would turn off the conveyor belt is. Instead of pressing the button to stop it, he looks down with a devious smile and revels with joy over the fact that the toys that just offered him a hand would be sent to a horrible death.
Where's your kid now, Sheriff?
Then he runs off. Yes, his past is sad, and totally shaped his cruel outlook on life. But that level of sadism is truly evil, and earns him the top spot on the farthest end of our evil list. But what do you think? What characters in the Toy Story series do you think are the most good? And for that matter, do you believe that Lotso is the most evil? Let us know. And be sure to watch our full Good to Evil playlist, where we've ranked all the characters in so many other cartoons, shows, and movies. But most importantly, stay wicked.